Okay, next we have SB 163 by Senator Hertzberg. This is on waste water recycling. This bill would require the wastewater discharges to beneficially reuse at least 50% of treated wastewater that would otherwise be discharged through the ocean or bay outfalls. And I want to invite Senator Hertzberg and any of his witnesses to come up and say this. Yeah. Okay. You may open, Senator.
Thank you so kindly, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it very much, and thank you for your courtesy in working with us on this, and your staff and putting time in this. I know that there were a number of issues raised in the analysis that your staff was very accommodating in discussing with us. Let me, if I can, just for a moment, frame why am I doing this bill and what's it about? If I can, because this is, you're going to hear me a lot over the next number of years come back on water measures that will be before your committee. You know, water has been an issue that I care deeply about and worked on my dissertation on this 40 years ago. And worked in many areas in the water field. Traveled all across the state, did billions and billions of dollars of district securities work with respect to the Treasurer's Office when Jess Unruh was Treasurer, quantification settlement agreement lining the Yellow Canal, and been thinking about water for a long time. And one of the challenges that we have with respect to water policy, and you know, one of the great things, we have 4,848 subdivisions of government in California, a number of which are water districts of various sorts, some beneficial, different kinds of districts that have been formed, and we have a history, but we have a modern reality that's different. In Southern California, where I come from, what we've done is we've just stuck a straw in your neck of the woods in the north, and we stole your water. And we did the same thing to the Colorado River, and that was our solution for water in order for Southern California to grow, because when California was incorporated, Southern California had more sheep than it had people. It was a different kind of a place. The question is now we've faced series of droughts over the years. We've got unbelievably difficult challenges in the farming community, which form the backbone of California's economy, let alone their culture and our culture in so many respects. Unnecessary political tensions between the North and the South. So I frame that this way because what this bill and other bills that are going to come before this body and the legislature over the next while from me are trying to rethink the architecture of that. And any time in government that you try to rethink the architecture of the status quo, you know, you end up getting a lot of questions being asked, some appropriate, some, in my judgment, not appropriate, because they're informed not by the common good, which is our objective of looking at California's 164,000 square miles, of which Mr. Dolly's got a big piece, but to look at the larger architecture of what we're doing in government. And so what this bill does is it says, in essence, that in Southern California, because that's really where the principal problem is, we can't just treat water as garbage. What do you do in Northern California? What you do is you take your water, when you have extra your water, recycled water, you put it back in the river, you clean it up, and the next person down the river uses it again. You have a pretty good reuse policy, right? In Southern California, what do? We take it, if we leave the water on too long, it goes into the sewer system. We spend all this money to clean it up to a federal standard, and then we dump it in the ocean. We have 2 facilities in Los Angeles, 2, that dump enough water in the ocean, just the ocean, that equals the entire usage of LA's water. That is dumber than a box of rocks. It just makes no sense. And what we're trying to do, and I know that there's an objection because I feel it, I've been around it, I understand the water buffalo community reasonably well by virtue of the work that I've done, and that is the fear of change. And so what we're doing in this measure is we are basically taking, I think, the good part of what we did when I was serving here before. Hi. It's probably some water guy calling.
Please turn off your cell phones.
We are not water buffaloes.
The water buffalo was calling.
Thank you. To say that they support this measure. And so what's happened has been kind of in the process of the big picture, if you will, when we're thinking about this stuff, I'm trying to say, let's recycle our water. Let's recycle it. Now, years ago when I served in government, we had the energy crisis, and we tried to do the renewable portfolio standard. And everybody bellyached about how the sky was falling, it couldn't happen, it couldn't happen, it couldn't happen. But as a architecture of governance of what our role is in the state, different than the local important role, I'm not diminishing that, is to set the big picture policy. That's what we do. And so in that regard, we set that policy, and I understand it was a lower level than I'm otherwise talking about here. But the impact, despite all the noise, is that yesterday, 41% of all power in California, excluding a large hydro, was generated by renewables. Okay? So the question is, what tools do we have to change the thinking about how water policy works? You're going to see, I think, in this committee or the water committee, a stormwater bill that I have trying to capture stormwater, same underlying concept, and some other measures dealing with a big think about how we change the game. And I understand, that this gives people indigestion. I introduced this measure 9 months ago at the end of last session. I understand it was put in this House, but we have had series of meetings up and down the state with all kinds of stakeholders, have heard every kind of input to make it happen. And so we've made a number of changes in the committee analysis and discussions with the chair, I think, with respect to this discharge, take it further and deal with, I think, appropriate levels of flexibility. As the chair expressed to me, and I understand it, government comes in and says, Chromium 6, set this standard. Your point about government coming in with regulations, set this standard, right? Fair call. It's not right. It often is hard. It's expensive. It's stupid because you can't have somebody fix their brakes because of how it works in rural or in whatever the circumstances are. But if we as a body, as a legislative branch of government, whose job it is to do the big think and not to respond to just the status quo, if we're going to do that, how do we do it? Well, we don't have the aptitude to work on the day-to-day basis, and what we do in government, federal government does it more than what we do, is we delegate to agencies. Now, I would argue, and certain people I've talked to in the past with respect to the cap and trade stuff, and some of the stuff on renewable portfolio standards and stuff with AB 32 was probably not enough discretion and created certain levels of problems with respect to how the CAR board worked. So what we're trying to do here to give the water board wide discretion, wide flexibility in response particularly to the sensitivities that the staff and the chair made. And what is that? Reasonable cost, we're looking at clarifying the language about reasonable cost and other considerations in defining waste. 2, in terms of the discussions of change that we want to make to what we've done, given what the analysis said, is that we'll take language requiring the water board to consider cost. Again, cost. You can't go to a poor community and say to them, you're going to have to do all this stuff when you can't afford the rates, and we've just raised your rates again, when setting regulations and reviewing their plans offered by wastewater agencies. 3rd, we're going to give flexibility for agencies seeking relief from the 50% mandate. What if the number's too high? We know that it's 23% in Santa Margarita Water District in Orange County. We know, if my recollection serves me correctly, it's 63% now in Orange County that's done a brilliant job with their Blue Water program. But we're going to give flexibility if they can make certain findings as to lack of access storage, lack of markets, I can't sell the water, too expensive or whatever it will be. And lastly, we're going to limit this to public agencies with an ocean or bay outfall, meaning that no private industry, because we're trying to get to the big structure here. Ultimately, we're going to deal with this in the architecture of this down the line, but no private industry, no inland water agencies would be covered by the bill. What we're trying to do is to deal with these guys that are dumping water in the ocean at big levels and try to require them to start thinking about it. You know, they've got 17 years to get to the 50%. They've got flexibility, and so I think that given that, I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, I was just going to say, because I don't think all the members got the language. Do you have copies of that? To pass it on?
I have.
These were last minute changes that he was going over.
I don't. We'll make copies.
They're not in print, but they're proposed. Okay. I just want to make sure everybody, all our members have them.
We just did in the last couple hours.
Okay. We have some copies too, so we can make sure all our members have it. But that's the list that he just went over.
That's the big picture we're trying to do here, you know, and so we are trying to meet those goals. We are trying to restructure how water works. I do understand it creates challenges. This is the first committee, as the chairman suggests, and we're going to have another hearing in the water committee. And we've certainly spent a lot of time and moved pretty dramatically. But I did not want to move off of, just my final point, sir, is I didn't want to move off of the underlying framework of, look, you know, doing a study, or doing some small ball stuff doesn't work. We got to start moving the ball down the road. And I just tell you, the rate of change that's happening in the world is extraordinary. In the water world, we all know that decades are weeks in everybody else's standards by virtue of my experience. But we got to change the game. So I offer this up, and we've got witness and support, and anybody else who wants to weigh in, if they're only in support, though.
Witnesses in support. Start with those. I think there's only one
out there, sir. Justin Malone for two groups, Heal the Bay and U.S. Green Building Council. The two groups that share a very similar philosophy on this. This is bold. There's no question. This is a bold move. This is a bold goal. But we can do it. And there's a very strong analogy between this and our waste diversion requirements. We first had 50%, now we're at 75%. People said we could never do it. We could never divert waste 75%. Some jurisdictions are exceeding that. It is bold, but I think we can do it. And the reason this is so important is that we have a water quality and a water quantity problem here. And the water quality issue for Heal the Bay in particular is that we treat this water to a high standard, then we discharge it. It's a terrible waste. This water isn't necessary to go through our hydraulic system. It doesn't have to go back into the streams or the rivers. This is right at the end. It's going back into the ocean. So this is the right target. This is the right source of water to target. We believe this goal is attainable. There's a long lead time, and we understand there's some issues to be worked out, but we really urge you to embrace this bold goal and put California on the track to reusing this water more efficiently. Thank you.
Other witnesses in support.
Kyle Jones with Sierra Club California in support. Thank you.
Kelly Dillon on behalf of California League of Conservation Voters in support. Thank you.
Anyone else in support? Let's go to opponents. Those in opposition. We have some Wayne.
I don't see any.
Man's got to make a living.
I'll hire you. I'll hire you. Work on our side. No problem.
You and I are going to have a conversation right here. I think it'll be just fine. But,
all right. Who wants to start it off?
We're going to let Mr. Dillon start it off.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Mike Dillon, representing the California Association of Sanitation Agencies, 115 of the major wastewater agencies, including some of the large cities and also many inland agencies. We're not sure what the amendments do. We haven't seen them. If there's still a mandate in there, we have some very strong concerns with that. Reference has been made to Orange County sanitation districts. That was a perfect situation down there. I think they're currently at 50%, according to them. You had a water agency and a wastewater agency right next to each other. There wasn't even a fence in between them. So that was a unique project, perfect situation. That's not going to apply in San Francisco, where you have no reservoir, no aquifer nearby, and so forth. The cost we're looking at is in the terms of the billions of dollars. I don't know how many off-ramps may be in these amendments, but again, the impact on the ratepayers would be absolutely huge. And also, we want to make a point that there are projects underway right now. The county sanitation districts of Los Angeles and the Metropolitan Water District are looking at a project that's going to exceed $1 billion and will be the biggest in the world. San Diego has a pure water project that is underway, and then we can't disregard the inland agencies like Sacramento Regional that has a huge project going on now. A big component will be recycled water for the agriculture community nearby. So again, I have no idea what these amendments look like. I don't know if it'd be possible for the committee to have another hearing on the amendments, but at this point, we still remain opposed to the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Richard Harris on behalf of the Water Reuse Association, the agencies in the state that have been recycling water for over 30 years, 40, 50, some cases like Los Angeles, 75 years. And I've been doing this for about 20. And I have had this gentleman sitting next to me for many of those years in favor of recycling, and I appreciate where he's coming from and trying to do all this. The problem is my friend here is going down the wrong track. Interestingly, though, we haven't seen this latest set of amendments, and we would really like to. And I think the first thing, since I just heard about this, we'd like to ask the committee to set the bill aside and for us to then see a bill in print, let our experts, let other people see that and see where he's going. Because as of right now, the version of the bill that we've been looking at and trying to work with, we think it's kind of, as I said, going in the wrong direction. First off, what it does is it sets up the State Water Board to set up a new regulatory framework that isn't needed in terms of looking at a mandatory restriction on discharge and to come up with a regulatory scheme to do that, when in fact the State Water Board's done a great job, at least in the last 5-6 years, of working with our agencies, trying to get projects online, trying to get recycled water into the system, especially in the coastal plain. You know, we've got about, I think, $5 billion worth of projects planned right now, and probably another $30 billion in the next 20 years. Most of that's in the coastal plain, exactly what you're talking about, but not every one of those works the same way. And in fact, what we've found and what we all know, and Senator Hertzberg knows this, we can't get to this 50% discharge or the zero discharge of where he started. We can't get there without direct potable reuse. And direct potable reuse, as this committee knows, is actually a flange to flange. You can't, there are not groundwater basins in the coastal areas. There are, you can't purple pipe your way out of it. You can't recycle enough water under existing regulatory scheme without getting to a direct potable reuse. Well, how do we get to direct potable reuse? You're going to find by the end of this year, due to a bill that Senator Pavley had that we all worked together on, SB 918, created the water board sent them away so they would do a regulatory scheme on surface water augmentation. Those regulations will be in place by the end of this year. At the same time, they'll come back with whether the feasibility of being able to do direct potable reuse. The groundwater injection regulations in the state took 30 years to do. The surface water regulations started roughly 6-7 years ago, so we're on a pretty good track. But direct potable reuse, flange to flange, and I'm not going to use any of those other headline terms that my friend here, showers the flowers. We'll use that one.
County.
Thank you. All right. That's very serious stuff. We all got to get it right, and we know that. We want to get it to right, but we're not going to get that done in 1 year, 5 years. I bet we don't get it done 6, 7, probably not for another 8, 9, 10 years, something like that, in that sort of thing. So we need to get there before we can ever get to any of those goals that he wants. And then I started thinking about it. Why do we need to have a mandate that says you specifically have to reach that agency by agency when we could actually have goals like we have the recycled water goals? And I think that's something that we could live with, and maybe that's in the senator's amendments, because I know we've raised that before. I also know that the committee talked about having the advisory group be a little bit stronger and come together. Well, a few years ago, we had the Recycled Water Task Force that we were able to fund back in 2000, which actually identified the impediments to recycling, which actually allowed us to get to where we are today. We made some very strong headway after we did that, and we think that was a good idea, and we offered that up earlier this year. We think this is what the State Water Board ought to be focused on: helping projects get built, developing the regulatory scheme that makes that happen, working on funding, and giving the State Water Board, this committee should focus on giving the State Water Board the sort of resources they need to help get us all to where we want to get to, without it being a punitive sort of mandate on the front end that says you do this by then in a world in which you can't get there. So,
thank you. We have other witnesses in opposition. Long line.
Mr. Chair and members, Don Gilbert on behalf of San Francisco Public Utilities Commission in opposition. Like my colleagues on the dais, I too have a lot of respect for Senator Hertzberg, and his introduction of the bill has in fact helped move the discussion. Nonetheless, we do oppose the bill. As Mr. Harris mentioned, there is no need for a mandate. There's $725 million in money available in the current bond for recycled water projects statewide. There's about close to $2 billion in demand for that money. So, in fact, $325 million of the money was not in the governor's original budget. we all here lobbied to get that money in the budget so we could build recycled water projects, or our clients could. My client, SFPUC, has a $185 million recycled water project that was not mandated in place. They're developing it now. Once that project is operational, every drop of recycled water under the current regulatory scheme that San Francisco can use will be used. So if we recycled another 100 acres or whatever amount after that, we'd have no use for it. We have no place to put it. That goes to the point that every one of we are not Southern California. You know, they have their architecture, we have ours. The bill doesn't fit our architecture. My client makes decisions based on the most efficient, smartest, best use of the funds and the impact on the ratepayers, on their ratepayers. And I don't think this bill would allow for that. So for that reason, we respectfully oppose. Thank you.
Danielle Blassett with the California Municipal Utilities Association. We are also opposed, and our inland agencies as well as our coastal agencies are concerned because of the strain on resources with the money that my colleague mentioned earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Moira Top on behalf of the City of San Diego. We are opposed, but to be clear, we are not opposed to recycled water. In fact, our city is poised to begin the design phase of a $2 to $3 billion project that over the next 20 years would provide a significant amount of recycled water to our city's residents. If this bill passes, we will have to halt the design phase of that project, start over, figure out how to meet the mandates included in this bill. It is exactly the opposite of what we've heard is the intent. And so this was something that was not mandated upon us, but we think it is the right thing for us to do. We'd like to continue to do that, and we ask for your no vote on this bill today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. Maureen O'Hara, representing the Irvine Ranch Water District, in strong opposition to this bill. Contrary to one of the witnesses' statements, and as what you're hearing now, we are not sitting around just studying this. Water districts from north to south are doing all they can to recycle water. And in fact, Irvine Ranch Water District has been a leader in recycled water since its inception. And the city of Irvine has grown up with purple pipes under its streets, feeding its medians, feeding its landscape golf courses, commercial buildings, and agriculture. And in order for the district to reduce its current discharge by 50%, it would have to expand an existing reservoir, which would cost nearly $75 million, disrupting our financial priorities. And for these reasons, we also urge a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Valerie Nero for the California Chamber of Commerce. We too are opposed. We haven't seen the amendments. Our business community already suffers under a pretty heavy load of costs that we have to meet. Our districts, our water districts and sanitation districts have informed us that if they are to do what is required in the bill in print, then our costs would have to go up 5 to 6 times, and they'd have to start escalating those costs now in order to gain the resources they need to meet the terms. So we would ask for your no vote.
Jennifer Williams with East Bay Municipal Utility District. East Bay Med respectfully must oppose SB 163 unless amended. We have serious affordability concerns. Initial estimates, if regulations were in place, the cost would be about $3 billion or a 500% rate increase. For our customers, that would mean rates likely over $400 per month. That goes directly to the affordability, especially for our disadvantaged customers. And so we have serious affordability concerns with the bill.
Hi, Pilar Oñate Quintana here for the North Bay Water Reuse Authority, which is a group of 10 water and wastewater agencies in Napa, Marin, and Sonoma counties. We really consider ourselves to be strivers, not slackers, when it comes to really seeking to maximize use of recycled water and minimization of ocean discharge. To date, with phase 1 of our program, which is almost complete, we're at about a 13% ocean discharge, and we already have in place plans and studies to get to 31% for a total cost of about $200 million. But of course, that's going to take money, and that's going to take a combination of federal, state, and local funds. So what we would basically say is what we need is support, not a sledgehammer in the form of a really unworkable mandate, as we see it, at least with the bill in print. One other comment is that with respect to the amendments that were described, I didn't catch anything about potential credit for environmental uses, such as wetlands restoration. So, to the degree that there's further conversation about what the amendments are, I would, well, then, if it is, then I look forward to evaluating that. But for this moment, we're opposed. Thank you.
Wendy Ritterbush with the Association of California Water Agencies, and we have such a great deal of respect for the author and his concept of thinking big, big think. I think what our member agencies are concerned about is that it doesn't turn into a big stink, and so I think we really want to. And we're very concerned about the waste and unreasonable provision piece that's and the interplay with water rights. And there's several other issues, but of course we're going to take a look at language like everybody else when it comes out. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Green with the Sanitation Districts of Los Angeles County. I, too, unfortunately, am here in opposition. Haven't seen the amendments, but we appreciate the enthusiasm that Senator Hertzberg has. We want to work with you, Senator, and with the other members of the committee to do something productive. We are very committed to water recycling. We've been recycling since our beginning in the 1920s. We had a water replenishment program go online in 1962. We now recycle approximately 100,000 acre feet every year. We're working on a lot of projects. Mike Dillon talked about one of those to do a lot more, and we don't have that mandate. We don't think that's needed. We don't think that's helpful. We think that will interfere with the efforts. But I mean, like my colleagues that have spoken before, I think having more support from the state would be very valuable and helpful. I did want to address one other point that was made by one of the witnesses, which is the analogy to AB 939 and AB 341, the solid waste diversion mandates and recycling mandates. Of course, those have been wonderfully successful, but one of the reasons is that those recyclable materials, many of those, I don't know the exact percentage, but a pretty high percent are being exported. You can't do that with recycled water. We have to use it, basically the way our plants operate, it's 24/7, 365. We produce the water every single day, every minute. You have to have some place to put it. And in highly urbanized areas in particular, that is a big challenge. Storage is really the key to making large-scale recycling successful. You have to have groundwater basins that are proximate or have pipelines built long ways to get to either reservoirs or other groundwater basins. Those are very huge public works projects that we think would be necessary. That's sort of part of the complicated part of this, but I think we're moving in that direction, as others have testified with many other projects that are underway. And I think that we're moving in this direction without mandates, and so I hope that we can work together on something to move this forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, John O'Malley with California Advocates on behalf of our client, West Basin Municipal Water District. We agree with the statements made by the previous speakers in opposition to the bill, and we too have severe financial concerns regarding this bill. It's impossible right now for West Basin, which is one of the largest recyclers of water in the state of California, to comply, to reach 50%. We just can't do it. It would cost our ratepayers untold millions of dollars. It would cost the district untold millions of dollars, which would be borne on the backs of other ratepayers. So unfortunately, we must oppose. And we too have not seen the amendments to the bill yet, and look forward to seeing those too. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Dawn Kepke with McHugh Kepke and Associates here on behalf of the California Council for Environmental and Economic Balance. We apologize for the late opposition. We have had a conversation with the Senator's staff. Unfortunately, we are opposed for many of the reasons already stated. I do look forward to reviewing the amendments, but as currently drafted, we have grave concerns. Our members are in line with others that have spoken, certainly very supportive of investments in recycled water infrastructure and moving those goals forward. However, as currently drafted, the bill is of concern and we must be opposed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. John Arriaga on behalf of the Monterey Peninsula Water District, and we certainly commend you for your efforts with the recycling proposal. but we do have some concerns for many of those that were stated earlier. Chairman Alejo, you do know that there in Monterey County, and particularly along the peninsula, we know the needs to conserve, to recycle, to do other options like desal and so forth. So we certainly can appreciate that, but we have some concerns with the bill, and particularly the costs that would extend to the ratepayers. So with that, for those reasons, we oppose the bill. Thank you.
Testify.
Mr. Chairman, I forgot. I was asked by the Olivenhain Municipal Water District in northern San Diego County to also register their opposition. And then I brought my friend, Mr. Manning, with me.
He needs better friends. Ed Manning on behalf of the Western States Petroleum Association in opposition. Thank you. I'm aware. But we are still concerned about, we are obviously in Southern California, our refineries are amongst the biggest discharges to sanitation systems. We look forward to working with Mr. Hertzberg. We had some discussion with his staff today, and look forward to the dialogue. Thank you.
I must be doing something right. Revolution. That's what I came back to do.
All right, we're going to bring this. Anyone else? Any other ones in between? Any people with concerns?
There's still 10 people on the hallway.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, we're going to bring this back to committee for questions and comments. But before I do that, I just want to start it out as chair. I didn't make no recommendation on this bill to my members, but I did want to state that I share a lot of the concerns that were expressed by the opponents, and I share these directly with the author. I think it needs there's a lot of real concerns to it, representing a rural coastal district. Certainly the concerns about the cost that go along and the cost that could be then put onto ratepayers, especially disadvantaged communities, really hits home. And there's a lot of other concerns as well. But the author, this is the first hearing on this bill. It was put into print 9 months ago, as he stated, but this is the first committee, and it's a work in progress. And he has some proposed amendments. There's a lot of other suggested amendments on this bill as it moves forward. But for today, this is double referred, has to go to Water, Parks, and Wildlife. That hearing is scheduled 2 Tuesdays from today.